Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Is the president really prepared to shut down the government again in 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think he actually is.
17 congressional leaders, 8 Republicans and 9 Democrats have less than 3 weeks to fulfill a vague mission: beef up border security funding by an unspecified amount.
We really have no choice but to build a powerful wall.
The president said Friday that if Congress doesn't boost funding, he'll declare a national emergency or allow another partial shutdown, even though many in his party still feel burned by the last one.
Shutdowns are never good policy, ever.
According to S&P, the shutdown has cost the U.S. economy $6 billion. That's more than the $5.7 billion President Trump requested for the border wall at the heart of this dispute. A federal watchdog determined it could take the IRS at least a year to get back to normal after 5 million pieces of mail went unopened.
It's going to be massive catch-up at this point.
Michelle Harris is one of thousands of IRS workers who were furloughed for 35 days. She put off emergency dental work and car repairs and still hasn't gotten her back pay. She says some of her colleagues quit.
I know that it was more than people could handle, and they put in their notice. I don't blame them.
The White House says that federal workers will start to get their back pay today and that all overdue checks should go out by the end of the week. As for President Trump's State of the Union address, CBS News has learned that February 5th is under consideration as a makeup date, but that, like so much else around here, is currently uncertain.
I had a great birthday. I'm having a great birthday is what it is. I gotta say, my family is amazing. We had, they surprised me. Surprise! You're old. We're older. It was amazing. It was just amazing. I have so many freaking cousins, and Howard arranged a surprise party for me yesterday, which is very difficult to do because I can sniff out news. And I really was surprised, and I thank him very much for doing that. And Loretta's awesome, and my father's family is just incredible. And thank you so much. People flew for me with the TSA, with the whole thing, with the, thank God the government opened for my family. I think that's what did it. But wow, what a day that was for me yesterday. So awesome, so incredible. You might notice I have a little bling. See, yeah, very ghetto. I love this. But yeah, okay. So the government is open today. It's open today. Thank God. Thank God. But they're struggling. There's 5 million pieces of mail not opened at the IRS. I mean, S is in their name, as in service, and they're going to be, paper cuts. It's going to be death by 1,000 cuts for those IRS employees. It's just so unbelievable. It's just such an amazing thing. And, of course, they couldn't wait. Everybody, the Uber Cult 45 members, the base, the Al-Qaedas, they couldn't take that they didn't get their stupid wall money, so they started, bitching and moaning and complaining and tweeting and showing up on the TV and yelling and screaming and turning blue in the, oh my God, and the spin. Oh, he's decided to live another day and fight on his own turf, and Janine Pirro's giving him, prep talks.
We really have no choice but to build a powerful wall or steel barrier. If we don't get a fair deal from Congress, the government will either shut down on February 15th again, or I will use the powers afforded to me under the laws and the Constitution of the United States to address this emergency.
There is no emergency.
The attacks were immediate, full bore, and relentless. Instead of giving the president credit
for recognizing the damage to this country.
Oh, my
He
God.
was attacked by virtually everyone. Instead of people saying, thank goodness someone in Washington recognizes the need to compromise, someone who actually understands the purpose of government is to serve the people.
Yes.
He sees people who live paycheck to paycheck having a difficult time buying groceries and paying their bills.
Oh, sure he does.
Airports closed, preventing people from business trips, visiting family members, as well as the attendant economic hardships. And unlike the obstructionists and the Trump haters who don't give a damn about ordinary Americans, he simply couldn't let it go on. He did not cave. He made a tactical decision, a strategy decision to pick the ground to fight on. He chose to stop the fight today to fight another day. And that day will be February 15th.
Oh my God, she is such a sycophant. She is in deep. I mean, like, seriously. So the caring for, he sees you, everybody. He saw you suffering. That's why he sent Wilbur Ross on the TV to tell you to go get a loan from your credit union. And the Commerce Department's credit union charges 9%. That's why he did that, and that's why he stood there and he said, "Hey, your grocer will go along. Hey, your landlord will go along. People will go." Your grocer? Who the hell is your grocer? Mine is a giant box store with, people who had to come out of retirement to check me out, and the box boy. Very nice people, but it's a giant corporation. What does he think, that we all have it's like Green Acres or something? You all go to Druckers? What fantasy land does this man live in? He sees you. Meanwhile, he's got these rape fantasies, and it was so amazing because last week the Washington Post heard him for I think he said it 22 times. 22 times in 10 days, Donald Trump made this argument that women are duct taped. Sometimes in his fantasy, he varies it. Like what they're wearing, I guess. He varies it. Sometimes the duct tape is duct tape. Sometimes it's blue tape, painter's tape, which I don't think he knows, the difference. Sometimes it's clear packing tape. Like the kind that the federal workers had to send the Christmas presents back to the Amazon factory, right? So that packing tape that you have to have. Yeah, this is just, and she's sitting out there shilling for him. Your grocer will go along. Go get a loan. It's this is just so serious. And by the way, the numbers are in the first report you heard Standard & Poor estimate that the cost of the shutdown was $6 billion. The wall, 5.7. That was just a down payment, by the way, a prorated down payment over there. But, $6 billion, they said, but the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, they said the federal government shutdown cost the economy $11 billion. That's the new analysis. That's from CBO today. And they said $3 billion of it is a permanent loss. It's a permanent loss in lost economic activity, meaning even when people do get paid, if they get paid on Friday, this is what they're saying. No, they have to go in today. They have to fill out time cards. Keep your fingers crossed. They'll get paid. People can process those time cards. It'll be, although I will tell you, there are people from 2013 who sued for damages because they got slapped with late fees, because they got slapped with overdraft protection, overdraft costs at the bank, because being poor is the most expensive thing that you could do in this country, as you know, right? So those people sued, and that lawsuit began in 2013. It got decided in 2017. That's how long it took to get it decided. The federal court found in favor of the stiffed federal workers, ordered damages, double their salary, be paid to them. And it's now 2019, and guess what? They're still waiting. Still waiting. One of these days. Yeah. So that's the efficiency of the whole suing through the court thing to get your money, and God help us if that has to happen. But now we have 3 weeks, and the workers are like, listen, we get paid, we sort of kind of know like what to stock up on now, and so many people have quit, so many people have just left and gone into other endeavors. But the president is just sitting there at his desk saying over and over again that we're going to have to do it. It's a national emergency because there's a rape fantasy that he has in his head. And what was so interesting about this crazy rape fantasy with the duct tape is that the Washington Post tried to find whatever he was relying on to tell you these things, right? They went crazy.
Human traffickers. The victims are women and children. Maybe to a lesser extent, believe it or not, children. Women are tied up, they're bound, duct tape put around their faces, around their mouths. In many cases, they can't even breathe. They're put in the backs of cars or vans or trucks. They don't go through your port of entry. They make a right turn going very quickly. They go into the desert areas or whatever areas you can look at. And as soon as there's no protection, they make a left or a right into the United States of America.
What
There's
is he
nobody
talking
to
about?
catch them. There's nobody to find them.
I'm glad he's not in charge of MapQuest.
They can't come through the port because if they come through the port, people will see 4 women sitting in a van with tape around their face and around their mouth. Can't have that.
4, definitely 4. It's 4 women per van. It's definitely 4, and it's definitely duct tape in this particular version of my fantasy. Sometimes I vary it. What do you vary? The kind of tape. It's like so sick. Because he's been telling this story for a really stinking long time. He did this the other day, too. He said the same thing.
Can come to some sort of agreement. Will you support the results of this?
Well, it depends what the agreement is. I mean, yeah, but if they come to a reasonable agreement, I would support it, yeah.
Even if it has no wall money? Or does it have to have wall money?
I only, look, I have other alternatives if I have to, and I'll use those alternatives if I have to.
You will never
We
do
want to
that.
go through the system. We have to have a wall in this country. We have criminals pouring into our country. And I'm not talking about the southern border. They don't stay there. They go through, they permeate all throughout the country.
They permeate.
Including places like Wisconsin, a lot of different places. And
yes,
that's
Wisconsin
the
is
problem.
very strange and
I
different.
say that we would cut our crime. You know, we're doing very well on crime rate compared to past years and past administrations. But I think our crime rate would go way down, and I know our drug rates, what's happening is the drugs are pouring in. And yes, they come through the ports of entry, but the big trucks come through areas where you don't have a wall and you have wide open spaces. We have to have the wall. You'd stop drugs. You'd stop human trafficking. I mean, human trafficking where they tie up women and they put duct tape in their mouths and they put them in the backseat of a car or in a van. They don't come through a port of entry because the people at the port of entry are going to see that. That's not like hiding drugs in the engine or in the hubcaps, and they have incredible, ingenious ideas. I mean, frankly, I've said some of these people are so genius. If they were ever legit, they'd become very rich people. But what they do is they go through the ports of entry with small stuff, but the big stuff comes through areas where you have nobody watching.
That is not true. There is no evidence for any of that being true or remotely related to the truth or even in the same hemisphere as the truth. Because every fact checker went out and tried to find what is he relying on it. And his riffs on the horrors about the U.S.-Mexico border have absolutely no relationship to what actually goes on. I mean, this has been 2 weeks that he's been talking about tape-gagged women. A January 17th Washington Post article questioned the claim, and he couldn't provide any evidence. And so Donald Trump asked Border Patrol, hey, can you back me up, fellas? And so the Washington Post actually went to the Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol said, we don't know what he's talking about. We have no idea what he's talking about. But apparently it came from those white supremacists that are, remember those three, the bald guys, all three bald guys who work for the Border Patrol Council, and they're all white supremacists who I can't say it today, tweet white supremacy and stuff like that. They're the ones that must have, like whispered in his ear to tell this story but the actual Border Patrol workers, the actual people, they said, Kevin McAleenan, he, on behalf of the Office of Customs and Border Protection, he's the commissioner, he asked the agents, he put out like this bolo, be on the lookout for any of the duct tape women, or report to us any duct tape women you've ever seen in the history of your employment with Customs, with Border Patrol, whatever, right? He put out this, because this is what it said. It said, agents should reply within less than 2 hours with any information in any format regarding claims of taped, gagged women. And they linked the Washington Post article to this memo that they sent out for further info. It says I'll read you from the actual memo that went out. We require your assistance on a quick turnaround for C1. Well, C1 turns out to be the Border Patrol Commissioner, the Customs and Border Protection Commissioner, Kevin McAleenan. Okay. We require your assistance on a quick turnaround for C1. Please forward any information that you may have in any format regarding claims, quote, that traffickers tie up and silence women with tape before illegally driving them through the desert from Mexico to the United States in the backs of cars or windowless vans. Please see the news article below for reference and further info. And they link the Washington Post article from January 17th. And then in big bold, it says, we require this information to be submitted to, and they give you by 12 Eastern. And this was sent out at 10 o'clock. Acting Assistant Chief Armando Sainz, U.S. Border Patrol Headquarters. Nobody has provided any instance at all about any woman ever taped and gagged and packed into a van or into the back seat of a car. Nope, never heard of it. The border experts and the advocates who actually investigate human trafficking, other reporters, never heard anything like what Trump is talking about. Never heard it. Never saw it. Never. And they're like, please, can you back up the president? Can you back him up? Can you get him? Can you get more information? Can you back up those claims, much less claims, that it's coming from the president that we have never heard anything about? And they were like, can't do it, Sally. Can't do it. Just can't have it. Can't do it. Can't have it. I can't do it. Can't have it. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.